Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a discussion on toxic gamer behaviors. I wanted to talk to you about a pretty heavy and dark one, but that's worth discussing because it happens. And this is physical violence / harm. Whoa. But this is in video games. What? This still happens. So, there's a lot of aggression that happens in competitive games. Competition inherently means that people are invested in winning, and they get upset if they are behind, not winning, if they just lost, and that kind of a thing. So what are some things that people will say and or do? One of the ones that we saw in Twitch chat earlier today was telling the person to self-harm. There is an acronym that has gained popularity for this, which we saw in the chat earlier. You can probably guess what it is. Sometimes they'll just tell the person to basically kill themselves, which is super intense and gross. Typically, when people say that, they don't have a close friend or family member or something who passed that way. So a kind of carryover from this one is they usually don't have that emotional event that's happened close to them. So they don't understand the impact of how horrible a situation that is for everyone who's around that person. It's very, very tough. I have two of my best friends from college who passed that way. And to me, it's really not funny. Like, it's not a thing that you should joke around about. And the reason that I feel like it's so dangerous is because if you're thinking about people's lives and that kind of thing, I'll just kind of draw a nice paintbrush line here. We'll say this is neutral, where you're kind of at the 0 point for how you're doing. And you've got a person's, wait, what? Where did that go? Hello? It's a mysterious line. Okay, now that works. It works. Great. Now I can actually do the drawing. So we'll say that their life is kind of like a squiggly line like this, where how good or bad their life is, either positive or negative, where they would be happy or not. It can be like this. You have good experiences, you have bad experiences. And the thing with this is, if you're saying something really vile and aggressive like this, or we'll just add another one here, saying you will beat them up / fight them. Very silly chest beating behavior. If the person is at this sort of a point in their life where things are overall quite good, it's not really going to do too much to them because they're in a good state, so they have a bit of a buffer. Maybe you make their day a bit worse here. Just do a little adjustment here. This is an alternate timeline if anyone saw Loki or something. We'll say at this moment here, this is how the person was going to be doing that day, but then someone said a physically really aggressive and BM comment. Their day could trend down a little bit, because someone said something really terrible and mean, when otherwise they would have had this level of day. That's a real impact on the person, and it could change their overall trajectory to be just a lower path because they dealt with that shitty stuff that a real person said to them, which is really fucked up. Someone in the chat says they just joined. Is this toxic behavior that's focused on others, or is it including habits one might develop which are toxic? Yeah, actually, that's a good point. We'll also include to this physical violence, breaking your own equipment, or slamming stuff. Thank you, that's a really good example, which is pretty close to this. The thing with this one is whenever you lose at something, you feel bad because you know that you lost. You went down in MMR. And you can't just talk to a genie and then wish yourself to have more MMR. The MMR is gone, and you need to invest basically a game to catch up in rating and then another game to go up in the rank. So it feels bad. I would say a way of describing the anger that we feel when we lose in a competitive game is like, say a Dota match takes 45 minutes, and it also takes 45 minutes to mow your lawn. Losing in a Dota game is like spending 45 minutes you're mowing the lawn for 45 minutes, and then at the end of it, if the lawn wasn't mowed correctly enough, it is now twice as tall as where it started. But you just put in that 45 minutes of effort. And then you're like, ugh! You saw how hard I was working on that lawn. And now it's taller. I have more work ahead of me than I did before. So for you to be mad, that makes total sense. You put forth effort and you ended up worse off when you were before. So you need to put in front of you that the game is stressful and there's going to be some feel bad that you experience. The question is, what do you do with that? And I would say these are pretty extreme types of toxic behavior. So what I would recommend, if you're looking at maybe trying to improve this one personally for yourself, where you're like hitting stuff, hitting the desk, would be to use the ancient saying, check yourself before you wreck yourself or your computer, which is know what your anger level is before you start laddering. Say recommendations. Let's go. We'll put that in green because green is a happy forest color. Recommendations. Wow. Font size 15. Okay. Assess your tilt before you practice /play ranked. I like to do this 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, where 0 would be the most pristine, serene, tranquil state of calm you've ever been in, and 10 is like the most angry you've been in your whole life. A lot of people, they go from like being mad at their workday, being mad at social situations around them, and then they go into the video game and they have all of that anger in their fist. And then as soon as anything goes wrong in the game, they take all the anger from the traffic, from their mean boss, from the bad luck that's happened in their life, and they just smash it onto that one random person on the internet. That one random person on the internet wasn't to blame for your traffic on the way to work, for your boss's behavior and your colleagues being annoying, and the rude customers and all the other stuff you have to deal with in life. But they were there and available to receive your anger if you chose to point it at them. But it's not fair to them, so you should not do that. So recommendations, assess your tilt before you do that. And then another one would be practice compassion for other people having bad games sometimes. Everyone has bad games sometimes. Whenever I have a bad, say, Shadow Fiend mid, or I have a bad StarCraft game, I try to remember that, and then the next time I see someone in that same situation, where I have a mid on my team, and they feed the enemy mid 3 times at the start, I remember the times when I was there, because I was there quite a few times. So I don't threaten physical violence to that person, because that would also mean that that would apply to me when I was there. And this is an untenable way of conducting yourself. If you wish such horrible things on random people in the video games that you're in, if you were in those same situations, then you would basically be saying that you deserve the same thing. And if we all conducted ourselves like this, then we would have no community. There would be no one to play the game because everyone would have uninstalled or been injured to the point where they couldn't play anymore. So it's ridiculous to escalate the aggression to this kind of level. It's okay to have aggression in life. The question is, where is the aggression coming from? How much of it do I have? And how can I manage that in a fruitful way? I'll give you an example. Articulate the main areas of improvement for each game for you before going into the next game. What is the point of this? Well, the point of this is to make sure that you can process the previous loss and get some closure, and also create an emphasis for the next time. A lot of times people rage queue from one match that was bad, and then they spam click the play again button because they just want to get the MMR back, and they feel like it was just bad luck, and they just write it off. It's just bullshit, bad teammates, but non-specific stuff. If you're actually a student of the game, even if you played well relative to your team, there are still some things that you could have focused on, or things that you could have communicated to your team a little bit better. Maybe you felt like you were the best player on the team. Then you could help the team strategize and figure out what we need to focus on, what map objectives could we have taken, where could we take some different defensive fights to potentially catch up in the game, and you articulate that for yourself. So you always go back to what is an internal factor that I can focus on for next time, because that's way less tilting. It's a hard work oriented mindset and a student oriented mindset rather than a mindset of entitlement. What entitlement tells you is that you are just so hecking good, you deserve to win all your games. And if you lost, it's because of bad teammates or bad game balance or bad luck. A lot of people feel that way. They feel that they are so gifted, they are so inherently good and fast and knowledgeable and perceptive that they deserve to win every time, which is false. If a game is really hard, there are a ton of different variables to manage, and you need to be able to just chip away at first the big picture details and then the fine details after that. So we all have a lot of stuff to work on. So you should try to make sure you keep that mindset of hard work, or you could say keep a practice-oriented mindset, and watch out for entitlement. Entitlement is yikes. Some of it is a little bit connected to the self-esteem culture with how many of us were raised, where it's just the parents and the teachers just telling the kids that they're great. But to achieve greatness in like a competitive game or a sport or music or anything like that, you have to work very hard over time because lots of people are talented. You have all these people who are talented. If you have 100 people who are talented, how do you decide the winner? Whoever works the hardest, basically, assuming they have similar levels of talent. So instead of just bashing stuff, think about, okay, I feel this frustration about not winning. How can I channel this frustration into something that makes me stronger? Here's another recommendation. If you are big mad, we're talking like breaking equipment or saying really aggressive stuff to people, exercise. Have a physical outlet for aggression that is healthy. That one is huge. For me personally, the way that I break it down is if I have an anger level of maybe 1 to 4 or 5, I can usually just analyze the replay, talk about what I could have done better, maybe vent a little bit, but then I'm pretty much fine. I can lower the anger level to something like a 2 or whatever, a 1 or a 2. But if I'm angry at like a 6 to 8, where I'm like pretty pissed, step away from the game. Step away from the keyboard. Take a break. Jeez Louise, ham and cheese. Take a walk. Get some water. Watch a video or something. Like, you need to remove yourself from the situation. Otherwise, you're basically just adding more anger onto the pile. You need to have some practice where you get the anger and you offload that. You say, okay, I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I need to just center myself because, as the term tilt suggests, tilt makes you play worse. So if you want to play better, if you actually want to improve, you need to figure out what is your method for managing that tilt and making sure it doesn't go out of control. So for physical violence and harm, I'm sorry that that has happened to you in video games and stuff. It's really fucked up that people do that. But humans are hunter-gatherer species. We do have aggression within us. And a lot of people don't understand the implications of these really mean comments that people can make. And they don't have real-world examples to draw on of how sad and horrible these situations can be. So try to have that for context to just protect yourself a little bit. And then be aware of your own tilt level whenever you're playing the game. Try to manage your tilt level when it's at a lower amount. Like when you're a little bit peeved, that's okay. Address that. Figure out how you can think about it in a more productive manner. If you get like pretty pissed, taking a break is great. Taking breaks is really smart. It's wise, and it helps you, for one, not be an asshole and make enemies. For two, just enjoy your life more if you can catch the tilt before it gets out of control. And for three, just like figure out your own process of self-control. Practicing self-control is a really important life skill that applies to everybody. And how we respond to video games is just another part of our experience. So if you're better at managing your tilt in video games, you're going to be better at managing tilt in other places too. So you can think about this as an arena for dealing with stress and figuring out how you can be a better steward of that stress and that emotion. And this has been another conversation on toxic gamer behaviors, how they work, and what you can do. Burp.